Yo, 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 what it do, what it be? It's your boy, Agent A&T, repping the Spell Block Agency, coming to y'all with another Apex Legendary commentary, bringing y'all another episode of Kingpins and Capos. Last episode, we talked about the shadowy origins of the Sicilian Mafia and how their influence spread to America due to the pressure Mussolini put on organized crime in the early 1900s. Causing a massive migration of Italians who not only wanted to escape Mussolini's reign, but wanted to escape to America to continue or start up illegal enterprises. And in the 1900s and 1910s, most mobsters were involved in protection racketeering, money laundering, gambling, fixing elections. Hell, I mean, the mob's power and influence grew so fast that by 1919 they had fixed the World Series of Baseball, which was by far America's largest sporting event at the time. I'll probably have to do a video on that, no cap. Really crazy story, but maybe besides championship boxing fights, baseball was America's game, America's pastime. So anyways, the mob was clearly pulling heavy strings even back then, but the US government was going to present these mobsters with perhaps the biggest opportunity to make money besides the drug trade, but we'll get to that later. But in January 1920, the government passed the 18th Amendment, which banned not only the sale of alcohol, but the possession of it as well. Now, that may sound like a good idea at first, maybe. I mean, today alcohol is responsible for cirrhosis, drinking and driving related accidents, and a multitude of other health risks from overindulging, of course. I mean, however, when you tell people they can't have or do something, that makes the demand go up. And with the supply outlawed, people had to get their booze from somewhere else. So, I mean, if the government or stores won't sell it, they'll go to someone who will, obviously. I mean, look at weed for years. I mean, look at the crack trade. I mean, even though the CIA did kind of distribute that, we'll get into that definitely in a whole other. But anyways, that's where the mob comes in. And other criminal organizations, such as the Irish and Jewish mobs, quickly set up underground breweries and speakeasies, and they made a fortune throughout the whole Prohibition, which lasted until 1933. So about almost 15 years, a decade and a half. They was coming up. Now that didn't come without some major problems. It wasn't all just sunshine and rainbows and booze and bread. So the most famous mobsters were made during this era, though. I mean, Siegel, Capone, Luciano. I mean, this was the golden age of the mob by far. I mean, I'll try to cover as much as I can. I mean, if anything, this might be a two-parter, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, let's just start kind of chronologically with the man named Salvatore Maranzano. Now, Maranzano was the boss of what would become the five families of New York, and these families all paid tribute to Maranzano because he was the boss of all bosses. He's the dude who pulled all the strings, got all these guys together. Of course, they gon', I brought all y'all together, y'all pay respect. I can kind of see it from his point of view. But in the industry, in the cutthroat industry that you in, fam, that's not finna go well. I mean, not that he didn't earn his respect and the name the boss of all bosses, because, I mean, he was putting in work and earned his respect. I mean, he came from Sicily in the early 1920s, and he had ties to this dude named Don Vito Ferro, who was one of, if not the most powerful mafia boss in Sicily during the 20s. The 1920s, that is. We in 2020. That's going to be crazy 100 years later. Anyways, dang, it's like a 100-year celebration kind of. I don't know. I should have kind of marketed that better, but that's what we should be doing. But, I mean, we kind of can't celebrate it. I mean, we could kind of look past it. I mean, not look past it, but kind of reflect upon it. That's what I mean. And that's kind of what we doing. So, hey, that's what we doing, baby. Anyways. So, y'all see how my mind works is crazy, but, so, like I said, Maranzano wasn't no slouch. He was never lacking. He had, ties to this dude, Don Vito Ferro, and that's, Fero, Ferro, excuse me. But I mean, even though the mob in Sicily wasn't really at its height during the 1920s, because like I said, I mean, during that time Mussolini was on the come up. But I mean, as far back as 1909, Don Farrow was linked to the murder of a New York detective in Sicily named Joseph Petrosino, who he was part of the mob squad or something like that. Maybe not the mob squad, because I think that's a movie or something. But I think it's like the Italian guy. I don't know. He was part of a special task force built specifically for mobsters in New York. Now, he went to Italy to gather a list of known mobsters from Sicily so he could deport any that had immigrated to America. Now, Petrosino's murder exasperated anti-Italian sentiments in America, but it didn't stop the mafia from furthering their aspirations in America. So with Maranzano having strong mob ties from Sicily and also recruiting, future all-star legends in the game, Lucky Luciano, Al Capone, Albert Anastasia, I talked about him in the Murder Inc. video, Joe Genovese, and Joe Adonis, they would all become arguably bigger names than Maranzano, but they were all initially recruited by the OG boss of all bosses. Now, this all, he pretty much recruited them to go to war with this dude named Joe Masseria. Yeah, that's dang. Even my Italian accent sound Mexican. Anyways, but in 1930, he went to war with Joe Masseria for control of the title of bosses of all bosses. That war had been brewing for even before 1930. I mean, a couple guys got clipped. Assassination attempts were made, and then it just kind of turned into full-scale war. Now, kind of as war was brewing out in New York, in 1919, Al Capone was recruited by Joe Torrio to work in Chicago after, he was kind of working as a bouncer, and he got into the fight promoting and bootlegging industries, of course. Torrio and Capone, they eventually were both ambushed on separate occasions. Both survived, but after this, Torrio kind of, he retired, handed over all of his business to Capone around 1925. So, around 6 years, Capone was kind of just, learning the ropes of, Chicago. He came from New York, from Sicily. So, traveling all the way to Chicago. Chicago's cold is different than New York's, for sure. And, back then, he was working at this point, maybe not until maybe 1925 when Joe Torrio handed him over the business. He wasn't even the biggest guy in Chicago. But with, him taking over Torrio's business, he was definitely, he was up there as one of the dudes with the biggest target on his back. And, he got to work right away as the leader. He, I can't remember what year it was, but somewhere around that time, around 1925, 1926, he organized the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which saw 7 Jewish mobsters from Bugs Moran's Northside gang executed by machine gun fire on St. Valentine's Day, and that was in 1929, so just about 4 years after. And in 1925, right as he took over, he kind of got into a little political union dispute with this dude named Joe Aiello. I don't know, but Aiello plotted Capone's assassination because Capone kind of got him unseated from his position in the union in Chicago. So for about 5 years, from 1925 all the way up until 1930. Aiello is plotting on Capone. Like, he's sending hit after hit after hit, and every single hitman he sends don't come back. If you know what I'm saying. And keep in mind, while Capone is out here just sending this dude's hitman's back in boxes, He's organizing, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre and running a national bootlegging organization, and hey, Capone was out here doing it for a minute, but it's always important to note that Al Capone never went to jail for murder. I mean, Joe Aiello would eventually meet his fate after, Capone took out most of his men. Capone didn't kill any of his family. Keep that in mind. This was kind of the old school code. You didn't go after family. You killed, their guys, anybody who was associated in the life. But, family, kids, mostly off limits. But Al Capone never went to jail for murder or even bootlegging alcohol. He went to jail for I don't even think he went to jail for racketeering. He went to jail for tax evasion because back in racketeering wasn't even a thing. They didn't have the RICO charges yet. So went down on tax evasion. IRS will get you every time. So they locked him up sometime around, I want to say 1931, and by the time they locked him up and he was serving time, he apparently had contracted syphilis for early in his time in Chicago, early 1920s, obviously, and he just never sought treatment for it for whatever reason, and kind of melted his brain in a sense. His brain went sizzle pop. You feel me? But yeah, no, he eventually went crazy because the syphilis kind of fucked with his mind. I got to do some research on how syphilis can affect your brain, because that's crazy to me. I didn't even know. But yeah, dude was going fishing in his swimming pool at his house after he got, he went to house arrest because he was originally sentenced to Alcatraz, I believe. But, he was so crazy that they were like, oh, bro, you're not even a threat no more to nobody. So just go home. So, yeah, interesting note about Al Capone, and interesting lesson to learn. Always wrap it up and always pay your taxes. But let's go back to New York to cap this off kind of. So Maranzano and Massacre go to war for the title of Italian crime boss of New York. And it ends with Massacre getting gunned down in a restaurant by Joe Adonis, Albert Anastasia, Vito Genovese, and Bugsy Siegel. And we'll probably get to all of those guys in future videos, like I be saying. But I'm covering most of the big history and events kind of first, if you feel me, kind of like I did with the Chirac shit. But Lucky Luciano, who was Massacre's underboss at the time, knew about the assassination plot and excused himself to the bathroom just before the killers pulled up. And with Massacre out of the way, Maranzano proclaimed himself boss of all bosses and organized the 5 families of New York, which I'll get into in the next video, along with Capone's Chicago outfit for show. That'll be the next video. I don't know if it'll be the part 2 to this or what, but for sure be on the lookout for that. But as I was saying, Maranzano organized the 5 families, and Luciano took over Massacre's gang, and this is when the mafia and the families kind of started to organize with the underbosses, capos, and foot soldiers, and took form of the modern mafia family structure and organization we see today. And another important thing to note, Lucky Luciano was actually Massacre's underboss. So whole time he knew, they had this whole thing set up to get this dude whacked for a minute. His own underboss out here plotting against him, cause he hey, this dude gotta go. So hey, in that kind of life, you just never know who your friend and who your foe. All off the dome, y'all feel me? But and like I said, I'll get more into the Maranzano Massacre war and all the fallout from that, and Capone's Chicago outfit next video. And we'll get more into individuals like Capone, Maranzano, and even Don Farrow in the future. So In closing, I would just like to say all these men were, they made the equivalent of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in today's money. And the banning of alcohol may have helped people's lives in a certain aspect. I mean, alcohol-related disease and ailments, went down, of course. But obviously, it did nothing to curb the criminal activity or crime. I mean, if people want, it's always the crime will always find a way. I don't know if it'll always pay, but it will always find a way. If something is illegal, someone will try and get it. Every time. That's what they do. Some people are made for this shit. but I mean, to be real, a lot of shit like the Prohibition and even like the war on drugs made a lot of criminals, rich beyond belief. And these, run-of-the-mill bootleggers, if you will, in those times, and even drug dealers today, they pretty much saw, like I said, a demand, and got the supply for it. That's capitalism, baby, in its purest form. They didn't grow up in the best environment, but they made the best of bad situations. They went from being poor, second-class immigrants to millionaires, to being the most powerful men in their city, sometimes in some cases, most powerful men in the country. Like, these dudes was out here getting presidents gone, and I'll probably talk about that in my next History Mystery video, so stay tuned. You already know. But yeah, like I said, I'll get more into the Maranzano and Massacre war and all that. And but another thing to respect before I go is these guys actually had a moral code. Like I said earlier, they wasn't killing women, they wasn't killing children, they wasn't, if you was a op, bro, you knew you could get it. They wasn't coming after nobody but you. And you don't even know if they would have somebody from your own gang set you up just for a bigger place than they... Bro, crazy. But they never... to my knowledge, I haven't read of any, like, big cases where, they had, like, child assassins running through the streets and stuff like that. Like, granted, as, times change, so does war. Like, can I get some fucking help? Kids growing up and they, their brothers or cousins, get killed from specific people, and they know who did it. It's hard to tell them not to grow up and do something about it. Especially if those people are actively taunting you. And, back in Chicago, Frank Sinatra wasn't dropping diss songs to mobsters. Like, bro knew his role. He was a musician, hung out with the mobsters. Was like, I know what could happen to me if I'm fucking around, if I say the wrong thing. But, I don't know. I'm just kind of ranting here and there. Not really going nowhere with it, but that's, yeah, but they made the best out of a shitty situation. And that's, the purest form of the American dream and capitalism. They became businessmen, right? Like I said, running multi statewide national smuggling rings, if you will. So buying fancy, eating straight steak, shrimp, lobster, Italian cooling it. But yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in to the video. Hope y'all enjoyed. I'll probably commentate on the rest of this. But yeah. Let's see what we got going on here. Alright, look like we just took a dub. Okay, I'll take that. Shoot. Alright. Comeback season. Oh, sudden death round. I get to commentate on the sudden death. Oh, let's go. And I got the defensive bombardment. Let's get it. Just try and use it wisely. I'm out here gearing up. I'm out here waiting for this. Let's get it. These ops ain't ready. They scary. Going through the tunnel and let's get it. Let's get it. Okay. Yup. Oh, bruh. Melting armor. Oh, fuck. And they jumped down and I think got me or something. No? It wasn't that smart. Okay. Alright. My bombardment hit nobody. Throwing all the NATOs out. Clutch reload. Oh my god, look at me miss every shot and get punched on. Oh my gosh, look at me, y'all. Oh, look at... Couldn't get punched on twice, bro. I had to come up with the reverse uppercut, fam. The counter punch. Wasn't ready for these hands. I ate his little punches. They tasted like some Skittles or something, fam. One hitter quitter devil. And the last one hiding. Bro is all the way over here, bro. He must have really been scared. Either that or he needed to heal. Because both his homies are long gone dead. Oh, bro's trying to clutch this solo. But like, bro, you need to run away. Yeah. You need to come up in this dome shield if you're going to get us, fam. And I know she wasted her, what's it called already? Her little L1 or, look at that. I didn't even need to be there. Thank y'all for tuning in to the video. Stay tuned for my next one. I got more hot content dropping soon. Like, subscribe, comment on any of the maybe major big gangsters I should cover in the future. Something like that. Yeah, I'm out, y'all. Peace.